Welcome to the Spiritual Awakener podcast. This is a podcast where I get to interview really interesting people, people that are aligned to their truth and their path, people that have had awakenings or turning points in their life that have led them to be of service. When we are of service, when we are living our truth, when we are truly in alignment with our mission, that's when we feel the most fulfilled. And I'm excited to introduce my next guest to you. Her name is Sue Frederick. She is an author of many, many books, which she'll tell you about later. She's an ordained unity minister, and she has a very interesting story to share with us. So enjoy, sit back, have your cup of tea, and really listen to Sue Frederick on the Spiritual Awakener podcast. Thank you, Sue, for being here.
Oh, Susan,
Welcome.
it's an honor.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, when I bring my guests on, what I really love to hear is, what was it that was a turning point in your life or an awakening? We have many, of course, but
Yeah.
what was it that led you to kind of understand more about who you were?
Well, it's perfect that we're doing this podcast this week because Thursday is the 43rd anniversary of my great spiritual awakening when my beautiful husband, Paul Frederick, died in my arms of cancer, and I was only 29.
Wow.
And that definitely launched me on my spiritual awakening journey. And like many people who go through devastating grief, I didn't just instantly go, oh, I understand this. I understand that it's all soul agreements and a life plan. No, I was angry at the universe that my beautiful young husband had suffered and died in my arms. And he is, or he was, the great love of my life.
Wow.
But what I've learned since then, it's been many decades of learning, of studying, of working with clients, of studying numerology, of studying spirituality, is that we all come in with a plan for our soul's evolution. And often, if our soul has really intended to wake up in this lifetime, we're going to have some big heartbreaks. And definitely when Paul Frederick showed up in my life, we were mountain climbers together in Colorado in our 20s, and we thought we were invincible. We thought the lesson of life was to conquer your fear, and that's part of the lesson of life.
Mm-hmm.
But as he got sick, and I spent a year taking care of him, and he was suffering terribly. This was the 70s, back before there was really good cancer care. And, my lesson in it was that there are many things in life that when they come to us, we can't change them, but we can surrender and move through them with grace and with learning the lesson of love and compassion. And Paul definitely taught me that. And I look at it in my soul's journey as shifting from warrior, my arc of learning from warrior to healer, because the pain I felt at Paul's early exit, and then the following year, my best girlfriend, Chrissy, died from cancer.
Wow.
Those two crossings were the pain that fueled my greatest growth and now my greatest work of helping others.
I hear that. I hear that. And you were saying it was around about the age of 29. You said that happened, and that's your Saturn return, isn't it?
I know, it was a whopper of a Saturn return.
And I had my spiritual awakening around about 27, 28. So I get, and that was a loss as well. So, it is those things that happen. So if you're listening to this, whether you're listening live or whether you're listening in years to come, when we have those situations that happen, they really are the rug being pulled from under our feet, aren't they? But they are the greatest opening for our healing journey. Yeah, carry on, Sue.
Paul made it clear he's been such a powerful teacher for me, even in the divine realms, because the minute Well, the way he crossed was magnificent. I'd been caring for him at home, and he had had me promise that he could die at home and die in my arms, and we had agreed to that. And suddenly there was a medical emergency, and we ended up in the hospital. And it kind of felt like it had all gotten out of my control, and I was disappointing Paul, because humans always want to go with guilt, right? Oh, this is my fault, and it's not what he wanted. Delete guilt if you're listening to this. It is not, sir, it serves no purpose. But in that moment of feeling like I was disappointing Paul, I fell asleep on the hospital floor. He was in a coma. His breathing hadn't changed for 48 hours. And instantly, as I fell asleep, he appeared in front of me, completely healthy, young, happy, whole. And he said, "What are you doing on the floor?" He said, "You promised me that I could die in your arms. Get up and come over here and hold me." And I woke up from that vision. Oh, and he also said, "I'm not trapped in that body," because I was telling myself that he was trapped in that body because he was in a coma. And he was like, "I'm not trapped in that body. I'm perfectly free. Get up." And so I woke up and I cleared everybody out of the room except his mother. And I went and stood on one side of him, holding him, and his mother was on the other side. And the minute we took that position and we both said, "We love you, Paul. We release you. We let you go. We'll be okay," he took this beautiful sigh, this final breath, so peaceful. And his spirit lifted out of his body, and we both saw it.
Wow.
And his spirit left through the window to play in the mountains of Boulder, Colorado, where we lived. And I knew without any doubt that his spirit lived and he was free, and that the body was an empty shell. And it changed my life in that moment.
Wow. Incredible story, incredible story. And let's just pause for a moment as people hear that and perhaps, resonate with it. Definitely, we're recording this in July 2023. And over the last couple of years, there have been many people that have passed over and chosen to pass over at this time. And there have been many people that haven't been able to hold their loved ones, as I'm sure you know. And what you said there, I thought was really, really important, was that actually people pass exactly how they're meant to pass.
Right,
Even though you
right.
weren't at home, which was the plan, you know,
Yeah,
John Lennon said life happens when we're making plans, right?
yep.
And
And
so
I'd like to
allow,
share another story that validates what you're saying, is that even if we're not with our loved one,
mm,
they come immediately to visit us.
yeah, please
So
do, please do.
let me tell that story. That's one of my favorites. So all of my life, I had a best girlfriend named Chrissy. We went to Catholic school together, so we were always getting in trouble with the nuns, laughing and stuff. And she was brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. And she was one of the first women accepted into Georgetown University in 1969, my beautiful Chrissy. And so we were always processing life together, even when we went off to different colleges and different places. And when Paul got sick, Chrissy came to visit, and she really loved Paul. And then after Paul crossed, Chrissy came back to visit like 6 months later, or less than 6 months later. And we went skiing because it was Colorado. And when she was skiing, she fell, and there was this bizarre bruise that formed on her leg. And we were both looking at it going, "Wow, I wonder if you broke something, And she was like, "No, I can stand on it." And so we were perplexed by it because the bruise just kept growing.
Wow.
And I took her to the airport. And by the time she landed in California, the bruises were all over her body. And they diagnosed her, took her right to the ER and diagnosed her with very aggressive leukemia. And I was devastated. I can honestly say I was more devastated than when Paul died. And the reason for that is Chrissy had been in my life for as long as I could remember, helping me process life and talk about it and learn through it. And suddenly here she was facing terrible suffering, just like Paul had. And this broke me because my question for the universe was, why do good people suffer? And if there's a God, why would a God allow this? And I'll come back to that later because that's a very
I think a
important
lot of
topic.
people feel that. I think,
But
a lot of people feel that, don't they? That,
yeah,
if there was a
and that's
God.
why I became a minister, to find the answer to that question. So I want to talk about that. But Chrissy, she went and got a bone marrow transplant and went through a lot of stuff. And the whole year of her journey was so hard to see. I can honestly say I was in a post-traumatic stress syndrome from watching Chrissy suffer after watching Paul suffer. And so about a year later, she was in remission. And so one night, I thought she was doing okay. And all night in my sleep, she was with me and she was making me laugh and she was carrying me. We were flying around in the divine realms. She was showing me friends of ours and pointing them out. And together we were laughing the way we always had laughed together, to the point where my stomach muscles were hurting from laughing. You know that feeling?
Yeah.
And I would wake up in the middle of the night going, wow, I'm with Chrissy. And then I'd kind of fall back to sleep and she was still there, taking me everywhere, making me laugh. And when I woke up that morning, I was like, I was with Chrissy all night. And then I was like, oh no. And I picked up the phone and called her mother. And her mother said, Chrissy crossed last night.
Wow.
But what I knew then, and the message for everyone is, Chrissy was so free and happy out of her body. And one of the first things she did was come and show me that she wasn't, her spirit was still very alive and very vital. And that laughter and joy were so beautiful and important in the universe. And that being free of the body happens instantly. And then they're able to come and love on us, even if we're miles away from where they are when they cross, which is a very important message, because so many people say, oh, I didn't get to be there when my loved one crossed. I feel terrible. And my message is, your loved one came to you the instant they crossed. And
Even if you don't remember it, even if
if
you
you
don't
were
remember
open to
it,
it, you would
yeah,
remember it, but some
yeah,
people are shut down to those experiences at first.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've had many, obviously being a medium like you and clairvoyant,
Yeah,
had many experiences where somebody was communicating before they even passed over,
yeah,
and
yeah.
my ex-partner's stepmother, she contacted us and came to us and said when she was going to pass over, and it was on her birthday, and she said,
That's
I understand now what you talk about, because she was very religious and did not agree with anything that we did. We were both mediums. And she said, I'm going to make it to my birthday and then I'm going to pass. I was like,
that's so
okay.
great.
Yeah. So they can. And that's a really good message, especially for those that perhaps are listening and were not able to be with their mother, their father, their child, their loved one, their friends at the time of their passing, to know that they are, and I call it just a doorway away. Like they're right next to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful, Sue. What beautiful stories. And a huge amount of loss that you chose on your timeline of your soul path to awaken to who you are. And why do you think you chose that experience, for example?
I chose grief because, for me at least, grief is my greatest spiritual teacher. And I think I call her Divine Mother Grief. I think she's a great spiritual teacher for many people, because we can tend to sleep through life and just be focused on career and accumulating things and being successful. And
Yeah.
like Paul and I, we were focused on helping people, but it was in a kind of superficial way, helping them overcome fear and
Mm.
believe in themselves. And
Yeah.
that was all good work. But the real lesson of life is way beyond the physical. It's about owning the fact that we are divine beings who come here on purpose for our soul's evolution and to help others evolve and to shift the collective consciousness. And so I think that I knew coming in that grief would be the thing that would really wake me up. And I have such beloved soul posse members, and they needed to learn and evolve in certain ways that aligned with how I was trying to grow. And so we agreed to this myriad of losses that I experienced in my early 30s. But I will say to anyone listening, even if you are at first shut down, angry, questioning the universe for all of these losses, or angry at a God that you grew up believing because you think that God has made your loved ones suffer, I'm here to tell you, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to have that pain, as long as every now and then you look up and ask a different question and say, is there another way I can understand this? Please show me the soul's view of this moment, of this loss, of this contract. And then we start opening our channels to really receive the wisdom. And when Paul crossed, he took me on a shared death experience. He lifted me into the divine realms and showed me the divine order of everything. Wow. But then I had my own anger about it that I had to work through when I was back in these realms. And so for me, that was about studying spirituality. Of course, I had to make a living, and I was a writer. So I was working in the world of magazine. I was an editor of magazines, etc. But at night, I would go and meditate, and I'd go study at an ashram, and I was studying Hinduism, Buddhism, Course in Miracles, anything I could get my hands on, I was immersing myself in. And I'd grown up Catholic, and I studied Native American spirituality and theosophy. And my question was, what so many people ask is, who am I? Why am I here? Why is there suffering on earth? Why does anybody suffer? And where do my loved ones go when they cross? And why do I still have to be here? If anyone hits the dark night of the soul, those are the questions that they're asking. And the only answers come from spiritual study. And I don't mean accepting whatever dogma is handed to you.
Absolutely.
It's about dipping your toe in all those different paths and really deciding what resonates as true in your heart. And that's the healing path through grief. And then, lo and behold, you have a whole new perspective on life and death, and you've opened up your channels to receive from spirits and from guides. And now you're looking at life through your divine lens, as I write about in my book.
Yes, your new book.
Everything is magic and everything is God-filled. And that's the universe you get to live in then.
Tell us the title of your book. This is your new one, isn't it?
Yes. Through a Divine Lens, Practices to Quiet the Ego and Align with the Soul.
Yeah, amazing. I do feel that these experiences that we have, and they happen throughout our life, but these experiences allow us to come home a bit more to who we are. And I think if it is important what you were saying about what resonates with you, because I always say to my community and my members and so on, that actually if this resonates with you, hold it in your heart. If it doesn't resonate with you, then it isn't for you. And no one can be the teacher holding for someone else. We are our own inner teacher, aren't we?
That's right.
Healer. Yeah, absolutely. So Sue, the minister, the author, you're also a clairvoyant, you're a master numerologist. Can you talk to me a bit? Because I know that a lot of my members are interested in numerology, as am I. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that, works for people? How is it? Why is it important?
Well, again, that's really another gift from Paul, because when he crossed and I was so grief stricken and looking for answers, I had been to grief therapist and and nobody was resonating with as me in my heart as true. I mean, there's no other words to say it. Like a regular grief counselor at the time, they offered no comfort to me. It was like, oh, you'll get past this, and it's like, no, that's not what I'm asking here. I'm asking why.
It was a deeper question than grief therapy, right?
Right. And so a friend gifted me with a reading from a numerologist, and I had never actually even heard. I mean, I had studied a little astrology, but I'd never really heard of numerology. And she sat down in front of me for an hour and changed my life. And she showed me the path that I had chosen for this lifetime, a master soul path of the 22, and that Paul had chosen for this lifetime, and what our soul agreement was, and what reinvention cycle I was in the midst of, what my soul was trying to learn from all this. She answered every question I had been asking. And I remember when she left, I was like, wait, I need a book. How do I learn more about this? And it was 1979 and 1980, and there was just nothing. There was no internet, and there was one book in the Boulder bookstore about numerology. And I went and got it. But it was good because I had to go on the path of inquiry to learn numerology. And what I mean by that is I got this big blue notebook, which I still have because it makes me so happy to look through it. And everybody I knew, I would ask their date of birth, and I would calculate their path, and I would say, if they're on the 8 path, and this is what their life is like, and this is how they behave, what does that teach me about the 8? And so I really went on the path of inquiry to learn. And now all these decades later, I'm blessed to say that the teachers in the divine came to me with those answers. And even as I began writing my books that included numerology in 2005, around that time, George Harrison, different spirits would come through and teach me numbers, the meaning of certain numbers of their path in particular, and how to look at numerology. And I feel like I've been gifted with spirit teachers of it that teach me kind of a different way. And some people go, well, why do you call it sacred numerology, Sue? And because many people don't see it that way. And my answer is that some numerologists teach that we're kind of these random beings, soaring through the universe, and whatever date we land on Earth as our birthday imprints an energy on us. I see it very differently from that. Our souls are hanging out in the divine realms, and we're saying, how can we help humanity evolve? How can we each evolve our own souls and help others? Gee, I think I need to take that 22-4 path because I've got to build my strength, and I've got to accomplish a lot. I've got to learn to do that. And my partners all said, well, I'll take this path and that path, and then we'll have these agreements. And then we jump in, and I may cry and scream about the hard work of my path, but as I buckle down and do it, I'm suddenly becoming the best expression of myself that I wanted to be, and I'm able to help others. And that's how we choose our paths.
And how quickly can you, so if someone gave you their birth date, how quickly?
Do you want to do that right now? I got my pen.
I think it's to give obviously the audience an example of obviously I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am.
No, I'm happy. I'm happy to do it.
Okay, what do you need?
I need day, month, and year of birth.
Okay, so 11th of October.
So October, it's British. You guys say it backwards, so I've got to get it right in my head. October 11th.
Yeah, October 11th, 1969.
1969. And can I ask, is this you?
Is this me? What do you mean?
This is your birthday, right?
Yes.
Well, this is beautiful. Yeah. This is gorgeous. No wonder you do the work that you do. And let me see one other thing. Okay, beautiful. So your path that your soul chose for this lifetime is called the Libra One, and that explains why you're such a visionary, such a leader in the spiritual realms, because the one path is like it sounds. It's the leader, it's the visionary, the one who blazes a new trail.
Wow.
And every path has a gift and a challenge. And your challenge is, and if I knew your life story, I would love to hear it someday, because it means you had to overcome some self-doubt, probably early on. And then you had your great awakening of stepping up to be the teacher and visionary. Libra always is about bringing truth and beauty to the world, and then learning to quiet the mind of doubt through spiritual practice, and then coming in to be guiding humanity in a new direction. I don't know enough to know about you, but I hope you've written books. I hope you have a huge
Yeah, I,
presence
I
in the
am an
world.
author and I've just co-authored, this is my book, Awaken the Light Within Your Heart.
Ah, perfect.
And I've just co-authored another one, which is coming out soon. So yeah. Hmm.
So, and then the other thing that's really interesting is that right now you're in a one personal year, which means a whole new cycle is beginning for you this year.
Fantastic.
And that means your soul is being asked to kick your work up to the next level.
And that's
It
happening.
also means that last year was a year of letting go and surrendering anything that was holding you back. And that can sometimes mean relationships or titles, or ways that you're spending your time. When we hit a 9-year, we have to surrender what needs to be released. And
Mm.
that's where you were last year, but now it's about the new, and it's about planting the seeds, getting the new book going, getting the new classes, the new everything happening, because this cycle for you is taking you into your second Saturn return, the perfect ultimate expression. As you know, we have that first Saturn return in our late 20s when our soul recognizes the lesson and who we're here to be and what we're here to do. And then we hit the second Saturn return in our late 50s, where we go, oh, now the heat's turned up and I really got to be doing it fully. And the soul is going, hey, you only have a few productive decades left. You got to get it out, get your work out there.
Yeah, it's definitely changing and stepping up in this year. So that's amazing. Mm.
And those are just the superficial things. Like
Yeah,
what I love is doing, a session with a client where we're in it for an hour and we're really kind of doing the thing about numerology is it lets you do a soul review while you're still in the body. That's probably the most important thing about numerology is
yeah. And do you
when we
teach it?
outline,
Do you
yeah, we
teach it?
outline those 9-year reinvention points, and you can look through your whole life journey and go, oh, that's what I was learning there. Oh, and it's just like when we cross over and we have our soul review. But if we do it while we're still here, then we can self-correct, like I want to pass the test when I cross over and do my soul review.
That
I
was
want to,
amazing. That was
I
that
want
was
to
amazing. That little example of it. And so do you run courses in it? Do you teach people?
Yes. In fact, I was going to tell people I have
Yeah.
courses on my website, suefrederick.com, that are very reasonably priced, like 40 American dollars, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they are extensive courses that allow you to dig into all these aspects of numerology with me.
Wow.
And I also teach meditation in those as well, because I believe that as we quiet the mind through meditation, we can even absorb more information about our path,
Mm.
call in the guides to tell us more. And I use automatic writing for my clients where I'll connect to their guide, connect to their departed, and then write what I'm receiving and share that with the client.
That's beautiful.
Um,
That's really beautiful. And you're obviously a writer because you've written a lot of books, and the new one you spoke about earlier. But the other books, is it possible for people to
yeah.
find them on?
Yeah, they're all on Amazon.
Yeah, perfect.
And so I've got I See Your Dream Job, which is about using numerology and spirituality to find your true career, your true work. And then I see your soulmate, which is about helping you understand your soul agreements with people, all for highest good, even when they hurt. And then Bridges to Heaven, true stories of loved ones on the other side, helping people who are grieving to do their own process of connecting to their departed loved one. And then kind of putting it all together with the newest book, Through a Divine Lens. But I forgot, I have a sacred numerology workbook on Amazon, and it's very inexpensive. And if anybody just wants to go and figure out their date, their path, or their personal year, they can instantly get that workbook and do it very quickly.
Oh, wow. You offer so much, and that's really amazing that, there's so many different options for people to work with you, either, remotely or actually physically with you as well. Do you do the one-on-one sessions as well?
Yeah, and I'm kind of booked. If you go to my website, you can get on my waiting list.
Hmm.
But I offer also soul regression sessions as well as the numerology, because
Yeah.
I'm a soul regression therapist. And many people find it so helpful to go on the journey into a past life. And I'm just your tour guide, and
Yeah.
you're experiencing it and you're reporting back what you're experiencing. And then we put that all together with whatever challenges you're facing today. How does that past lifetime you just dropped into, how does it inform and help you navigate whatever challenges you're going through?
Yeah, yeah. And so I know if you're listening to this and you feel a drawing to any of what Sue is offering, which I'm sure you do, definitely find her on her website. Say your website again, Sue.
SueFrederick.com.
Yes, that's really easy. SueFrederick.com. And Sue, should we talk a little bit about guides?
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah, before we came on, we set an intention. So whenever I do a podcast and interview someone, there's always a sacred space that's created, which you guys won't see on the podcast, but I always do it beforehand. And then we always set an intention and bring our guides in. So should we talk to people a little bit about guides? Because I know
Yeah.
that sometimes there are some misconceptions about it, and also there's some fear around it as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, from what I've learned, and again, it's just my own experiences, and if it doesn't resonate, it's not for you,
Mhm.
is that we each have a primary spirit guide who helps us, who actually approves our life plan before we come in. And they love us unconditionally, and they help us create the right journey for our soul to evolve. And then they are present whenever we call on them for help. So, for example, if we're going through a time that we're struggling, the minute I always tell people, just take a deep breath and say, please, divine guides, lift me up above this moment of pain and struggle. Show me the higher understanding of it. Lift me up so I can move through it with grace and compassion. And the guides are there instantly. That's their job. They want to help us succeed here. And so they're instantly with us, but they can't interfere. So what I mean by that is if we're going to make a wrong choice, and we're not calling them to help us, then they're going to have to watch us make that wrong choice, But the minute we say, show me a different way, lift me into the light, help stop or lift me above the pain in my heart, they're so happy because that's what they want to do to help
That's their
us.
job,
And
right? That's their
yeah, it's
job.
their
And
job.
we're not allowing them to do their job if we're not. And do you feel as well? Because I definitely feel that I teach a channeling class, and one of the major things about that is to actually build that trust. Build that trust with your guidance, with your counsel, with your angelic realms, so that you have that conversation, that even if you don't hear them in the way that we're speaking now, but there is that trust that that the universe, God,
Yeah.
source has your back.
Well, the
You're
more we
not doing it on
listen,
your own.
and the more we listen, because we're such in a busy out focused world.
Yeah.
But when we meditate or sit in silence or go into nature, we begin accessing that deeper wisdom, the soul guides, the higher self, whatever words you want to put to it. And those voices always come in love and compassion and empowerment. If you're hearing a fear-based voice, that is just your monkey mind. That is your human self. Delete it. That's not your higher guides. The guides come in with loving empowerment and helpful information. So I always tell people, if you tell me, oh, I'm afraid something bad is coming, I just say, request from your guides, because I had to do this long ago. I only want to be shown the higher understanding of what's coming to me, and never anything fear-based that'll terrify me or make me feel like I can't handle it. So even if it's something difficult, show me my way through it if you're going to show me that thing. And that has always worked for me, because I never now receive anything that would be frightening, but I will receive something that says, this is what you need to be doing to prepare as you move forward. And it's always a very positive thing.
Yeah, I agree. And some people have had readings with clairvoyants or mediums that have told them things that have been really fearful or difficult. And I always say to them, that's not coming from a place of guidance and source. That's coming from perhaps the medium's mind or the ego or something that they're dealing with in that moment.
You are so right, Susan. My gosh, I wish there were more people like us sharing that message. You know, I work with so many grieving parents. They make up most of my practice, and I love helping them, and I love connecting to their children with them, and their children always come in with pure love and joy and light. But they often have been to mediums who have said terrible things like, you know, your child is stuck between the realms. That is baloney. And if anybody listening has ever heard that their departed loved one is stuck somewhere, that's the medium creating that reality. Because when a child especially crosses, they are instantly surrounded by their soul posse, by their guides, by their love, by their team of other children there that are all here.
You know, animals, everything.
There's nothing about getting lost and stuck between realms. We are not alone. We are surrounded by loving beings who have our best interest at heart, because we are in a collective together. And, you know, the whole reason I wrote this book, Through a Divine Lens, is that I had a vision. And if you can see my screen, this is my vision.
So for the purpose of the audio, so obviously if you're listening to this on, you know, Stitcher,
I'll describe it.
It's beautiful.
I was teaching a grief workshop, and I came home really exhausted, and I got sick. And so I got sick, and I had a really high fever, like 104. And I was taken out of my body one night by the guides. They were filled with love. It was not scary. And they showed me from a distance planet Earth. And if you can see the screen, you can see there's a globe here with light shooting up from every point of the globe. And what that is, the guides told me, is that every human, as they awaken their consciousness and choose love and compassion and awakening, they become a spark of light that illuminates all darkness around them. And as each person awakens into that light, they spark another soul awakened. And the guides were saying to me, as you see, the light is always winning. The love is always winning, no matter how it may look when you're down there on the earth. And they said, you have to, when you go back, you have to teach people that even as things, and this was 2014, before COVID and before a lot of tough things. And they said, things will be hard on earth for a while, but you have to be teaching that still the light is always winning. The love is always winning, no matter how it seems. And I remember waking up from that vision and going, I can't even describe how love-filled that experience was. So I have to write about it. And that's why I started writing another book.
Led you, led you to share that message.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about, I hope you're okay for time, but I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about those that choose to take their life. And the reason why I want to talk about that is because my awakening, which is in my book actually, and the first episode of my podcast, but my awakening was that someone came to me who was a dear friend of mine called Martin, who I actually named my son after, and he took his life. And he was very young. He was just a bit older than your husband, actually, when he passed. And he came to me 3 months later, and it was a very kind of scary experience initially because I was very young. I was in my Saturn return at that
Mm.
time. And many people have told me that when you take your life, and this is why I feel the guides have kind of given me this for us to discuss together for people to understand, is that many people say that when you take your life, then you're, you know, in the lower realms, you're not able to really be in that peace, okay, especially with suicide, with suicide situations. And I want us to just kind of open the door for people because there seems to be a lot of people choosing not to be here at this time, this
Yeah.
Great Awakening, and there's a lot of people choosing not to be. And so
Well,
many people are taking their lives. And I just wanted to kind of talk a bit
I
about that for
I
people.
think this is so important, Susan, because so many of the parents I work with, their children took their life.
Right.
And the first thing they heard from their church is that that child is going to hell, or, any of the dogma that Christianity puts around suicide. And I would just say, delete that. There are several possible soul exit points we have. I believe we each have three.
Yeah.
And sometimes the soul will hit a point where the soul is going, I don't think I can stay. I can't really accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. Now, whether that's true or not is not for us to decide, but
Yeah.
their soul is deciding that they're just don't think they can do what they came to do. And so they'll take an early exit. But when they do that, they are also brought into the light of higher consciousness and soul review.
Yeah.
And then as they see the ripple effect of that action and how it hurt other people, they'll then be more determined to help us and to help their loved ones to move through that pain.
Yeah.
And yet they are in the light. They are in the higher realms. They are not condemned in any sort of way.
And they
And
don't
that is a
have the pain.
man-made dogma.
It's key to say that they don't feel that feeling of desperation or guilt or shame or any of those things. And I think it's really important for people to hear that because
They're out of their body the minute that, even before they're totally out of their body,
mm,
they're in the divine realms. They're feeling the wisdom, the unconditional love of the higher realms. There are no negative emotions in the divine realms. It's pure wisdom and unconditional love. And think of it this way: if we crossed early, and there were times when Paul and Chrissy died when I would contemplate, gee, I don't think I can be here anymore. Maybe I should think about taking my life. If I had made that exit point choice, what I would have seen is that, well, that's a valid choice, but let's go help the people who love you now who are suffering. Let's go and help them and lift them up and heal them. And also, there are all these other paths here that you could still choose to take to be of service to humanity, and also to finish out what you intended to do in that
yeah.
lifetime.
Yeah, that's really helpful. It's really helpful information. And just going back a little bit to the exit points. So I've had a few actually. So I remember being on a boat with Martin because we were boyfriend and girlfriend at one point, and we were on a boat and The boat basically got through a storm and we nearly didn't make it. That was one. 9/11, I was supposed to be flying that day, but changed my ticket.
Wow.
Then I stayed in America. No, I came back a week early, so I didn't fly then. And 7/7, I worked in Edgware Road, and
Wow.
I worked with teenage pregnancy in child protection.
Mhm.
And the night before, I was in hospital with one of my teenagers. She was having a baby. So my shift ended, I worked a lot later. So the morning of 7/7, I didn't go into work.
Mm.
So when you look at those things
Yeah.
that happen, there are no coincidences in life,
Right.
right? So
I
those
agree.
are all, those were, kind of points where right place, right time type things. Yeah.
And your soul
Like,
was
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
I still promised to get the word out. I'm
yeah,
speaking as you. I'm a visionary. I'm an
yeah.
angelic being. I'm speaking as you. And I am going to stay because I still want to help more people.
Yeah, and I absolutely love it. I mean, I love, you can see me light up when I speak about, who I am, what I do. And I feel, I was saying to some people today about you feel so fulfilled in your life when you are truly living your soul's calling. And
That's
that
right.
evolves, doesn't it, Sue? It evolves and it changes,
It
and
does.
we're open to where it goes. And
Yes.
but when you feel that you are really living your soul's calling and you're listening to your soul, then the fulfillment happens. And those exit points will be there because you chose them, but you kind of bypass them.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
amazing.
you see the road that your soul wanted to
Yeah,
accomplish and you're finally on it. And
yeah,
I'm in my 70s now and I feel
yeah.
kind of young and like I'm just getting
You look
started.
you look so young. I'm in my early 50s, so I'm 53, and I feel I look pretty young for my age as
You
well.
do. You
I
look like you're 20.
Oh, well, not quite 20, but yeah, but I think it's when we're working with
Yeah,
spirit and light, and I honestly
right.
do believe that the more, so if you're listening to this and you might be going through a really difficult time, and our heart goes out to you with the time that you're going through, but remember that you are divine source within, and that this is just a jacket. This is
Yes,
just a little jacket that you put on this time, and the more that you come into that soul aspect of yourself and remember who you are, the lighter you are presenting to the world. So therefore, I believe the more light you hold, the younger you look because you're holding more light.
I agree
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. I mean, you look about 12. No, I'm joking. But you look very,
12.
very young.
I always tell people, well, I guess immaturity pays off in the end, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're fun.
I'm naive, I'm optimistic, I'm Pollyanna, all the things
Yeah,
I've been called, but I'm happy to own those because I feel
yeah.
like similar to you, I'm kind of like I know that I've been told I'm from the angelic realms. So
Mm.
I did come in with an angelic open heart, kind of an innocence. And I'm happy to claim that. I'm happy to say that's who I am. And if people are cynical, I feel like that's something that blocks them from their higher self and
Yeah.
from their innate wisdom and their connection to their guides. And yet cynicism is so valued in our world. It's crazy.
Oh, it's a
And yet
contrast.
yeah, and the opposite is true, being
Mm,
open-hearted, courageously hearted,
mm.
intuitive, trusting. Those are the good qualities that connect us to the highest realms.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm blessed. I have two teenagers. My daughter is nearly six, well, she's nearly 16 at the end of the year, and my son is 14 and a half. And both of them have been brought up that they are a light, and that whatever they choose to do, if they are enjoy with it, if they're enjoying it, if it's part of what makes them lit up, then it's probably a good thing.
That's
And if
right.
it's something that doesn't give them joy, it's probably not for them. And I've taught them that.
It's
They're not
so
in their
good that
destiny.
you've taught them
Yeah.
that, because when they get out in the world, they're going to get different messages that are very negative.
Mm.
And I taught my two children that too, and they're in their late 20s now.
Oh,
And I can tell you, this world is very tough on those young adults. And the
yeah.
more light we can fill them with as they go
Yeah.
out in that world, it'll really help them, because they are the light carriers. They're the ones who are going to save this world. They are more evolved than we are. They are the
Absolutely.
generation to fill our world with light. And I honor them so much.
Yeah, and the new ones being coming in as well, which are not new, obviously, but
Right.
the new coming in, which are the old,
Yes.
and the pure, I feel galactic frequency as well, very
Yes.
high frequency coming in.
I
Those are the
agree.
ones as well that, are just coming in as these incredibly, they're
Yeah.
almost like wise babies coming in.
Yes.
They've just got
And they are
everything
not
built in.
picking traditional, conventional paths through life. And if their parents don't understand that, their parents can be very freaked out about what choices their child is making.
Yeah.
But if a child is very clear that they want to go in a certain direction, they have to do it, because that's what their soul is calling them to do. And these young kids and young adults are the most highly evolved souls that we've had on the planet, and they're making different choices. They're not buying into the culture of greed and money that we've all been a part of, and
Absolutely.
this world is going to shift with their guidance.
Yeah, my daughter is just so like she's not interested in any gain of anything. She just literally she would give the clothes that she had on her to somebody. She would give all her clothes away. I have to keep saying to her, keep giving your clothes away. I've bought them for you to wear, yeah. But she literally has that heart where she just would
Yeah.
give her whole self to anybody, really.
Well, my
And that's
daughter chose the path of becoming a healer, and I'm so proud of her. She's about to graduate from acupuncture school,
oh wow,
and she also has a master's in spiritual psychology from Columbia University. So
wow.
she's really taking her path of helping people live healthy inside and out, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and guiding people through these hard times. Even during COVID, she was working in an acupuncture clinic as an intern
Right.
and really helping people with long COVID. And,
Yeah.
I'm so proud of her. Those are the kinds of choices this younger generation is making.
Yeah, and my son is just really animal orientated. So
It's
he's a
good.
scuba diver, an advanced scuba diver at age 14. He dives
Oh,
into the sea, he's with the environment,
oh,
that's kind of what he wants to do. And it's so
so good.
interesting. They're not mainstream educated. They haven't been for many years. And so they've just been able to choose, which is not an easy journey necessarily, but it has blossomed them,
Yes.
and allowed them to choose now as they're older.
Yeah.
Wow, Sue, what a great conversation. Any last words that you want to offer to people?
I just want to remind everyone that just take a breath and trust that at every moment of your journey, even in the darkest moments, you are surrounded by loving guides, departed loved ones, spirit angels, all trying to help you, all lifting you up, all showing you a way forward. Trust and ask for help, and trust your courageous heart to guide you, and you will move through it with love and grace. And so it is.
Wow, and so it is. Sue, thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Awakener podcast. I mean, it's just been a journey of softness and enlightenment. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a great pleasure to have you.
You're such a beautiful angelic soul.
Ditto, thank you. So, thank you so much for joining me on the Spiritual Awakener. This is a podcast that I love to share. It is from my heart and soul. And if you have a spiritual awakening story that you wish to share with my listeners, please find me at susankennard.co.uk. Much love.